Today, we're going to talk about the Fanatics and Topps hobby rip night. Some things went down at these that I think leaves a lot to be desired. There's lots of questions and some concerning elements to what Fanatics' intentions are for the younger participants within our hobby. Some of the things they're doing when it comes to targeting kids that collect cards and wanting them to gamble and all that kind of stuff. It seems a bit, wild and out there, but you know what? This stuff is very much happening. And, as a parent, this stuff concerns me a little bit. So we're going to talk about that today because I think it is a very important issue. Yes, damaged cards from Topps and Panini and all that sort of stuff and missing cards are a big bloody problem. But stuff like this is disgusting to me. And I'll get to my thoughts on that in a sec. And people can say, Daniel, you're a man yelling at clouds, but just hear me out and then you can share your thoughts down below. Now, these hobby rip nights are sponsored by Topps. As you can see on screen, it was heavily advertised via influencers and other content creators. And it's essentially a trade night, a fun night run by, Fanatics and Topps at various card stores around the US, and I think also some in Canada too. Now, these, per my understanding, are VIP only, are invite only. So it's not open to the general public yet, which is very disappointing to see. I think these events are kind of cool because what Fanatics is also doing is they're bringing athletes in to interact. And I think that stuff is exciting, right? Because it is something that is different. But what sort of went down at these events that has since come to light is pretty disappointing. When, Fanatics first announced Fanatics Live, right? One of the things I spoke about was, the fact that we might see regulators come in at some point because it's essentially gambling. And, some of the issues we've seen on Whatnot, who is a competitor to Fanatics Live, is that they've not done a really good job at vetting, users, right? There's kids on that platform gambling, right? And that's unacceptable, right? There's a legal age to gamble all around, the world. So to sort of have that happen is quite concerning. Yes, people might think, well, it's just a break. What's the big deal? The big deal is the habits that you sort of see from these breaks and what these breakers push onto users. It becomes a big problem. You see a lot of people addicted to this sort of stuff. So the concern with how poorly it's been run by Whatnot and now in turn Fanatics Live makes me concerned because there's not appropriate policies and procedures in place to make sure that the users are protected from themselves, right? Especially kids, because you don't want, kids getting exposed to this sort of stuff and then all of a sudden become addicts, right? There's a reason why laws exist. And you can hate me on that. You can say I'm a man yelling at clouds, but there's a reason why those kinds of laws exist, right? Now, the reason why this is relevant today is because I had a few people message me in the last few days after these events occurred and said, Daniel, you've got, these influencers and fanatics handing out packs to kids at these trade night events. And within those packs are what you're sort of seeing on screen right now from DGen Rips, who did, a really good recap of the whole situation. But what he essentially talks to is that those packs contain this, and that is a voucher to get a $15 coupon code to break on Fanatics Live. And what he goes on to say as well is, there was no real vetting process to sign up for the app to use that in the first place. You basically scanned it, you put in a mobile phone number, and then all of a sudden you could start breaking. And when you look at it through the lens of, okay, well, it's a coupon code, what's the big deal? The big deal is these trade nights were filled with kids. They were targeted to be events for kids, right? And, you might say as a parent, well, I just want to have a break with my kid. That's all well and good. A lot of parents that take their kids to these events don't know much about cards. So you've essentially got kids being given this thing and now basically gambling. And DJ Rips put a pretty good example of this in his video where he talked about, would you be okay with a casino giving, a $15 chip to a kid and saying, come play some blackjack, right? Again, you wouldn't, or at least I like to think you wouldn't. On face value, like I said, this might not look that bad, but you've got, a huge company like Fanatics and Topps handing out free packs to kids to then jump on to their breaking platform. And we all know the people that breaking it can be a lot of fun, especially if you're a degenerate like myself, and it can get addictive, right? And, the big deal I've made in the past about Whatnot and Fanatics Live is the barrier to entry for you to enter a break is quite small. You can literally be depressed sitting in a room like a lot of these people are that break nonstop, and all they're doing is clicking a button on their phone and they're sinking themselves into a deeper and deeper hole, right? It's very different to a casino having to walk in there. It's very different to going to a bookmaker and having to go there physically, right? Yes, there are people still doing those sorts of things, but the barrier to entry, is really, non-existent virtually. And the fact they're not really doing much vetting concerns me quite a lot. So the fact that you've got this business, like I said, handing out these packs to kids with these things in it just does not sit right with me. And like I said, the parents that are sort of at these events with these kids typically don't know much about cards, so they don't know to give the appropriate oversight to that. It just seems, odd to me how this is sort of allowed to happen, how it's not considered something that's breaching, gaming laws, right? Breaching gambling laws around the various countries in the world. It just seems, insane to me. And again, you guys might say I'm just yelling at clouds, but this is a serious issue because this is sort of them being predatory towards the younger audience to try and get them hooked, to gambling, to get them hooked to Fanatics Live, to then take advantage of them down the line. If I remember correctly, Fanatics either owns a sportsbook or is looking to acquire a sportsbook. So, this seems like them, getting people hooked to Fanatics Live now at a young age through things like this, enticing them to keep using it because, guys, it's not gambling, right? You're just opening boxes of cards. Meanwhile, you're getting them hooked, you're getting that habit built up to then use their sportsbook once they get to, the age of 18 here in Australia or 21 in the US, as an example. That's sort of what is happening here. And that's why, like I said, laws exist. It just seems, insane to me, especially when you look at these events and you see the influencers that are involved handing out these packs to kids and sort of being okay with the whole situation. Like, I don't understand how you could be, somebody that has a face in this hobby, right? You're somebody that has a platform to be okay with that. I also don't understand how people that can be a parent be okay with this sort of stuff happening. You can say, yeah, it's controlled, that's all well and good, but not everything is going to be controlled, and Fanatics need to be doing more to make sure that in those instances where it's not going to be controlled by a parent, i.e. somebody that knows about cards, that can prevent their kid from jumping into this, right? Fanatics need to be doing stuff to prevent, these kids with obnoxious parents basically not knowing what's going on. And you might say that's not their responsibility, but I say it is, and gambling laws also say it is. So there are things that, could be done and put in place to make sure this doesn't happen. Have a proper vetting process, make you be forced to put an ID in when you want to register. And also at the same time, people will say, well, kids are going to find a way regardless. Sure. When I was a kid, I did things my parents didn't know. I went and done a bunch of things that my parents didn't know about. But I had to go through a lot of effort in order to do those sorts of things, right? It's very different to be sitting in a room and on your phone and just clicking through crap and then all of a sudden getting your way and spending lots of money and then getting addicted or chasing your tail, all that kind of stuff. It's just sort of insane that you've got, like I said, all these influencers, this big business pushing this kind of thing. Meanwhile, they're trying to get your kids, hooked on gambling. So again, I'll say it again. Maybe I'm just an old man yelling at clouds, but I think this kind of behavior is unacceptable, and I would not be shocked if there is some repercussions for Fanatics off of the back of this. All it takes is one parent to sort of report this to the local politicians or something along those lines, and then next minute they've got a huge snowball effect on their hands. Because this is crazy. You've got an event, designed to get kids involved. We want to get more kids involved. And then the way you sort of do that, like I said, give them these coupon codes, get them hooked, and then all of a sudden they can go ahead and use your sports book when they're older too. It's insane. It goes back to the stories you hear about alcohol, before prohibition, and then also cigarettes and how that used to be advertised towards kids. Get them hooked at a young age so that by the time they're older, they're addicted, right? This stuff is unacceptable, and I'm shocked that not many people are talking about it. I've only seen a select few. I don't think I've seen, AH Sports talked about it, Ziggy talked about it, obviously DGen Rips talked about it, but I haven't seen really anyone else touch on it, and I think it is something that we need to talk about, and it's something that we need to push back on. So apologies if this video was a bit of a ramble. It's something that, I am pretty passionate about, obviously. I probably talked too fast. There's a lot more I wanted to say, but, I wanted to try and stay as calm as possible because this stuff, scares me more so for the long-term implications, more so for the parents out there that are really oblivious to what is actually happening with cards and what their kids are doing, not knowing what Fanatics is, not knowing what Fanatics Live is, and their kids are actively participating in this kind of crap. There's a reason why, like I said, laws exist. So you can say I'm a hater, you can say you're fine for your kids to do it, that's perfectly fine. But you know what? On the odd chance that there are parents out there that don't want this to happen, that they don't know what's happening, Fanatics need to do more to protect their customers. They need to do more to vet, and they need to stop giving these coupon codes to kids, because I guarantee you, you would not be okay, like DGen Rip said, for a casino to give your kid a $100 chip and say, come play some blackjack. Because, 9 times out of 10, parents would say, fuck off, basically. So that's sort of it for today. Thank you for watching. Breaking news right before, I recorded this. PSA has apparently acquired SGC. So I'm going to talk about that. You might see a quick video before this one drops, but if not, you're going to see a more detailed video in the coming days. But I thought this one was more important to talk to. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.